Why I quit engineering to become a music producer. Part 1, overview. And I apologize if I'm looking away from the camera, it's just I wrote it all down and I have a bad memory. First off, the reason I'm making this series is because I wish I had seen something like this when I was thinking about changing paths in my career. I wish I could have seen someone's story that was kind of similar to mine while I was having tough conflicts and making the right decision. In my 26 years of being alive, it's been made more and more clear to me that my story is not so different from many others. So I want to be that voice for you. I want this series to be the thing that helps you if you're conflicted in whether you should pursue your passion or do something that's more realistic. So I grew up playing music my entire life. I started playing guitar at the age of 9 and started music producing on GarageBand at the age of 13. In high school, I was kind of known as like the guitar guy, the guy that people would go to if they needed a guitarist for their band or if they needed it for a performance. And honestly, these were some of my favorite moments. When it was time for me to go to college, I was still passionate about music, but I felt like I needed to get a degree in something that was more like realistic in the world. I was always good at math and physics, and a lot of my family members are engineers, so I chose civil engineering. I went all 4 years of college doing my engineering degree while still trying to use any spare moment to make music. The further I got into engineering though, the more persistent I wanted to give up and just pursue a music career. And I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to send any hate towards engineers or any STEM majors. I mean, like I said, I did 4 years of engineering. I have a lot of family members that are engineers. It's just, it wasn't something I clicked with or something that I was passionate about. And if it is something that you're passionate about, then I commend you. I remember this one time where I was recording music in my room and I was really getting into it. Like I was really making this work, and I was really playing around with everything and having so much fun doing it. And then I got an alarm that says I have to go to my chemistry class. And I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining about that, but it's just the feeling of disappointment that I got time and time again, that I had to like put my music on halt while I had to go and do something that I wasn't passionate about. It was just something that I knew deep down in my core that I had to give up on. Or should I say more let go of. Once I graduated, I made a tough decision that enough was enough. I was tired of not pursuing something that I was passionate about, and I was tired of working long hours on projects that I just didn't care about. So in my senior year of college, I decided to start memoseventyone, which is my music producing career, and I haven't looked back since. Anyways, follow me into part 2 when I talk about the transition. Why I quit engineering to become a music producer? Part 2, the transition. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I am extremely grateful and fortunate to have extremely supportive family and friends. They have supported me through this entire journey. That being said, transitioning from being a civil engineer to a music producer was not the easiest. Like I said in part 1, whenever I had a moment that was free, I was using it doing music. Especially during the summers, I would sometimes go busking on the streets of Laguna Beach to promote my own music. Here's a picture of what that looked like. And yeah, I would go like pretty much every weekend and go for a few hours. It was a constant battle of time for engineering and music. I felt like I had to power through the long hours of engineering courses in order to enjoy 1 hour of playing guitar. Here's an example of what my homework sometimes looked like. In my final year of college, I had made a decision that once I graduated, I was no longer going to continue doing engineering. I told myself that since I've already come this far, I might as well finish now, but once I'm done, I'm done. At first, some people that I was close to weren't quite sure if I was making the best decision. They thought it was a shame for me to throw away a hard-earned, respected career for one that is a little shaky and unstable. And to be honest, that was the biggest thing that I struggled with. I felt like I was giving up on this amazing opportunity that I had worked so hard for. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can understand their reactions. Having put 4 years into pursuing a career or a degree that not only is stable, but was also difficult to get, and then to throw it all away to pursue something that doesn't even require a degree, and for something that is most likely less stable and less financially dependent. I mean, I get it. It seemed crazy for sure. But the question I always went back to was, on my deathbed, what would I look back on more fondly? Spending years in a career that I'm not that passionate about, even though it was stable and secure, or pursuing a career that fulfilled my lifelong passion of making music? So the answer was clear. I think once I had made up my mind, it was my turn to make up other people's minds. I had many difficult conversations with family members about this transition with the goal of showing them how serious I was. I think at first many thought that I wasn't really serious about it and it was just like a fun hobby for me. Anyways, once I graduated, I decided I needed a job that was more flexible, schedule-wise, yet still allowing me to get a decent paycheck. I had a friend that graduated a term earlier, and he told me that he started subbing at K through 12 schools as a side income, and he said the hours were flexible and that it paid pretty decently. So that's basically what I did. As soon as I graduated, I got a job as a substitute teacher, and I started posting music online since then. Follow me into part 3 where I talk about the regrets. Why quit engineering to become a music producer? Part 3, regrets. The biggest question I have here is, do I have any regrets regarding this topic? The answer is yes and no. Let's start with yes. The biggest thing that I always kind of regretted was the fact that I even went to college in the first place. Like, why did I spend so much money and time on something that I knew I wasn't passionate about? I was 18 when I started college, and I used to think instead of spending 4 years studying formulas and equations, I could have been using that time building up my fan base or audience. I could have been out there making connections in the industry. I could have been using that time to really learn the ins and outs of the industry. But instead, I felt stuck. Every time I would be in the middle of recording a new song, I'd be interrupted because I had to go to a class or attend a test or something. Plus, I felt like starting my music career at the age of 22 when I graduated just already felt late. I felt like, who would want to work with a 22-year-old music producer that doesn't know anything about the industry compared to someone who is younger and much more talented? I remember I used to go on people's Wikipedia pages and see how old they were when they popped off as musicians. And most were super young, like 16, 17, 18. Even if they were 22 when they blew up, they most likely had been working in the music industry for a few years to get there. To make myself feel better, I would then Google musicians that blew up later in life. And it would make me feel better for a moment, but it wouldn't last. Now for the reason why I say no. No, I do not regret anything. I think it comes down to the simple fact that I wasn't ready when I was 18. In retrospect, I really didn't know what I wanted or what I was doing at the age of 18. I think going through 4 years of college doing a degree that I wasn't passionate about made me realize how strongly I wanted to work in the music industry. It made me ready to run right into it as soon as I graduated. I was more confident in my decision at 22 than I was at 18. I think I was also much more clear about what I wanted to be when I graduated. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a guitarist that tours around the world. Now, while I still wouldn't be opposed to that, I've definitely learned a lot more about myself. I learned that music production was a lot more of my passion than anything. Making songs and beats for people was my biggest passion. Getting to work from home and not having to endure those long hours on the road actually started sounding much more up my alley the older I got. You could say that I was much more knowledgeable of myself and more secure in my decision because of the 4 years of engineering. So yes, it would have been nice to get a head start at the age of 18, but I would have not been ready, nor would I have known what I really wanted to be. Anyways, follow me as I continue into part 4, mental health, the decline. Why quit engineering to become a music producer? Part 4, mental health, the decline. So, trigger warning, this video will contain content regarding depression and suicide. So, when I was in high school, I started seeing my first signs of depression. I'd feel sad about everything. Getting rejected by girls, getting rejected by my peers, getting rejected for my music. I was just sad a lot, but I was really good at hiding it. Once I got to college, things only got worse. The further I got into my engineering career, the deeper I got into this depression. I felt this internal conflict of interest. I was red hot passionate about my music, but I had no time for it. All my time was going to my engineering homework. I was seeing other musicians that were younger than me, that were more talented than me, that were more successful than me, and I just felt like an idiot all the time. I kept thinking why am I doing this to myself? Why am I pursuing something that is so far away from what I actually want to do? I would fantasize about being this famous musician while sitting in a lecture about soil mechanics. And yes, that class is exactly as fun as it sounds. Each year, I was falling more and more into depression. Again, I was really good at hiding it when I was out and about. Here's a picture of me in college meeting Jeremy Renner, and look how happy I looked. But at the same time, this is what I looked like when I was alone. I was really, really, really depressed. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time for this next part, so I'm just going to make it part 4.5. Welcome to part 4.5. Let's keep going. Trigger warning, this video will talk about suicide. Last time we were kind of talking about how I was feeling really depressed in college and I was really hitting my lowest point. So I wanted to share a story that I haven't really told a lot of people. At my school, we had this huge music showcase thing called Spring Sing. Essentially, you get to perform on this school stadium thing that holds over 7,000 people. So anyways, I had been rejected for it in my 3rd year, but by 4th year, I decided that I was going to go all out for my audition. I wrote a song and I was going to perform it with one of my friends. We had practiced the song literally for hours and for many weeks. We made sure it was to make it as interesting as possible, yet we still got rejected. Now you have to understand that I was really in the thick of it when it came to rejection at this point in my life. I never felt good enough. I felt really worthless, and I felt so sad all the time, especially when it came to my music. But this was kind of like the last straw. When I saw the rejection email, I literally broke down. And I remember thinking, that's it. I'm never going to be good enough for this world. I'm never going to amount to anything. This was the proof that I, in fact, was a worthless human being. And it broke me. It broke me so much that I decided that night was going to be the last night I'd ever lived. And after work, I went home and none of my roommates were there. I knew it was the perfect opportunity. I locked myself in my room and proceeded to attempt suicide. I sat there for a few minutes in my bed, hoping to end my life. Being in that place in my life was the lowest I'd ever felt before. And there wasn't really any hope for me at that point. All I could see was just darkness and emptiness. The only person I told about my plans that night was my friend that I had done the performance with. But I hadn't checked my phone to see if they had even responded yet or not. I was about 99.99% sure that I was going to do it that night. That my life was pretty much gone at that point. But luckily that 0.01% of hope came into my life. As I was there attempting, the thought of my mom came into my head. The thought of how sad and destroyed she would be if I was going to, be gone. And so it made me stop. So that night, my mom saved my life without even knowing it. So I got up and took a shower and just sat there thinking about what I almost had done. I later got a call from my friend and met up with them. We talked things out, and that was the first step of me getting better. Thankfully, I was in therapy, and we talked this all over the course of a few months, and by the time I had graduated, I was completely out of my depression. Follow me into part 5 as I talk about mental health and the vision. Why I quit engineering to become a music producer, part 5, mental health, the vision. So trigger warning, there will be a little talk of anxiety and depression in this video. So after graduating and having come through the worst year yet, my mental health had gotten stronger and stronger. One thing I've learned about pursuing a music career is that it all starts from your mind and your vision. You're literally creating something from nothing. Unlike engineering, where the pathway to success is clearly paved for you, there is no one pathway that can grant me success in the music industry. So I started to learn about how to visualize and put forth my intentions into the world. Here are a few things that I learned that helped me have a stronger mindset when it came to pursuing a music career. First is comparison. Comparison is really the thief of all joy. I spent so much time comparing myself to others that were younger, more talented, and more successful than me. All it did was make me feel bad and see what I was missing. Instead, I stopped by unfollowing people that made me compare. This also goes for the other way around. Anyone that I thought I was better than, I also stopped comparing myself to. Comparing up or down, I've learned is harmful to my mental health, so I stopped. Second thing is being intentional with your words is crucial. I used to have this problem when introducing myself to people. I would say, "Hi, I'm Joe, and I studied engineering," or "Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm a substitute teacher." I felt like these were more like respectable things to say rather than "I make music." But my mom and my friend taught me the importance of being intentional about my words. My mom told me, when they ask what you do, you say, "I'm a music producer." That way they will associate you with music production. So at first this was really hard to do. I kept feeling like I was a liar. Like I wasn't making money off my music. I wasn't producing Grammy-worthy music. It was just me at home making beats and posting them to my 700 followers on Instagram. But the funny thing is, she was right. The more I introduced myself this way, I realized people took me more seriously about it and would even reach out to me for more opportunities regarding music. You have to believe that you are successful before others can see it. Third thing is I learned to live in the unknown. So I haven't really talked too much about this yet, but along with my depression, I was also feeling a lot of anxiety about my future. To be honest, I still feel anxiety to this day, but not as bad as before. The idea of not making it would make me panic. The idea of not being good enough would make me panic. The idea that I would waste my life pursuing something unstable would also make me panic. The idea of making it one day and then being canceled for something that I might have said or done would make me panic. To be honest, that is still one thing that I'm still working through at the moment. But one thing that I learned in this life is that you have to learn to live in uncertainty. I train my brain to be comfortable in this space. I may or may not become a successful music producer. I may or may not waste my life on pursuing this career. I may or may not be canceled one day. Learning to live in the unknown has strengthened my faith in myself and the things that I cannot control. Sorry, I'm gonna have to make a part 5.5 to continue because I ran out of time. Welcome back to part 5.5. Let's keep going. So last time we were talking about vision and some strategies to put your intention into the world. The fourth thing that helped me was my mom just told me to just show up. A lot of times I struggle to know what to post, to know what to make, to know what to say about my music career. My mom's advice is that the hardest part is literally just showing up. She told me just post every day. Just something simple. Just you showing up on people's feeds every day will make them grow a connection to you. And then eventually you'll figure out what exactly to post. So I tried this and yeah, it worked. I was able to post almost every single day my first year on TikTok. Last thing is this idea of living in the end. This is something my sister taught me. The idea is that you want to picture where you want to be in your life, and then you have to talk about it as if you're already there. So I did this by journaling every single morning, one page describing my life as I wanted it to be. So for example, I'd say something like, "Dear Journal, I am so grateful that I won a Grammy last night and that I have 1 million subscribers on YouTube," or something like that. And you just go into as much depth as possible. The beauty of it all is after a while, you kind of train your mind to think that your future is kind of inevitable. Like, it will happen for sure. Like, it's like saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna brush my teeth today." Like, you already know it's gonna happen. And when you think this way, you start acting this way. You start acting as if you've already have 1 million subscribers. You start acting as if you're already won that Grammy that you wanted. The one cool thing about journaling for 2 months is I went from 2,000 followers on TikTok to 25,000 followers on TikTok. And that was because I kept telling myself, like, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get to the end of this year with 10K, but I just feel like it's going to happen. And I believed it, and I got beyond 10K, and that was really cool. So I'm telling you, it works. Anyways, thank you so much for everything. Follow me into the last part of the series called Part 6, The Conclusion. Why I quit engineering to become a music producer? Part 6, The Conclusion. First and foremost, thank you all for listening to my story. I am so proud that you've gone this far. And let's just go ahead and wrap it up. So again, I hope this can inspire some of you to take the leap of faith into the thing that you are most passionate about. As I said in part 1, I wish I had seen someone talk about their experiences of changing career paths. So I hope this can be that for someone else. The takeaway here is that we really only have this life to do what we can with it. Why waste it on doing something that doesn't bring you fulfillment? Why waste it comparing yourself to others and feeling not good enough? Because you are good enough. Believe in yourself. There is no age that is too late to start. I believe that I was too old for way too long, and it only brought me anxiety and depression. You are better than you think, and you are better than what people might say about you. Always remember that your vision is your key. Reflect on your life and ask yourself, what is my vision for the future? Where do I really want to be, and how can I point myself in that direction? And if you're not sure and you feel lost, then that's okay. That just means you're figuring things out. And if you're sad or depressed or anxious, then that's okay too. That just means you're working yourself. And if you feel unworthy or not good enough, that's okay. It just means that you've lost track of how worthy you really are. But it doesn't mean you've lost yourself. Because you still have worth in this world. So, thank you so much for everything you guys have, said in the comments. Thank you so much for just listening to my story. Again, if you guys have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to, comment or send me a DM. But yeah, that's my story of how I quit engineering to become a music producer. Best of luck to y'all.